President Trump made his United Nations debut Monday, and he urged the international organization to cut bureaucracy and sharpen its mission. His comments were a precursor to Tuesday's main event, when Mr. Trump addresses the UN General Assembly for the first time. Chip Reid is at the UN. So, Chip, President Trump has been a longtime critic of the UN, characterizing it as weak and incompetent. On Monday, he led a discussion to reform the international organization. What can you tell us about that meeting?
Well, I can tell you there was a dramatic change in tone, Elaine. You just mentioned a couple of things he said in the past. He's also called the UN a club where people go to talk and have a good time. He believes there's a massive amount of unnecessary red tape and bureaucracy. He has said that the UN is no friend of democracy and no friend of freedom. But today, he said it's founded on truly noble goals. He said it has tremendous potential to deal with a lot of the world's problems. And he said he's going to work very closely to partner with the United Nations to try to get it to fulfill its potential. So certainly still a critic, certainly still thinks the United States spends too much money compared to other nations on the UN, but had some kind words to say today, a dramatic change from what he said in the past.
And Chip, the president also met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu Monday. The two discussed the goal of peace in the Middle East. What else came out of that exchange?
Well, maybe this was also an indication that he was just in a great mood today, but he was extremely optimistic about Middle East peace. He said there are a lot of people who doubt it, but he thinks it can happen, and he clearly was suggesting he believes it can happen under his presidency. He said we're going to give it an absolute go, and we think we can get Middle East peace. But I must say, in the statement, the very formalistic statement that came out after his meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu, there were just the usual diplomatic statements about continuing efforts toward peace.
Interesting contrast there. Well, he also met with his French counterpart, Emmanuel Macron. Tell us more about that meeting.
Well, it was a very friendly meeting. They both had very nice things, very nice things to say about each other, to the point that I think they're both going to be criticized at home pretty heartily by their critics. The one interesting thing, the most interesting thing the president said was he so admired the military parade in France that he attended on Bastille Day with President Macron that he wants to do it here in the United States for July 4th. And I think that will be very interesting to see how the American people feel about a big parade like they do in France and China and Russia with all their military equipment on the national holiday.
That will be interesting. Well, President Trump will officially address the UN General Assembly on Tuesday. Is there a sense of what we can expect from his speech?
Well, there's not a whole lot at this point. I think he's going to be walking a balance, walking a tightrope between America first and also making clear that he needs the United Nations and they all need each other, especially on the issue of North Korea. But I think Nikki Haley, the U.S. ambassador to the UN, might have put it best. She said she's seen the speech and she said he slaps the right people, which I think we can presume will be North Korea and Iran and some others, and he hugs the right people, and we'll have to wait and see who those people are.
All right.
Elaine?
Chip Reid at the United Nations for us. Chip, thank you.
My pleasure.